Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about queen versus knight, and I'm going to quickly teach you how to do this easily, smoothly and consistently every game. So let's get started. Now the first thing to remember is that there is no sort of steps or something like that when it comes to this kind of checkmate as there was in other checkmates. So I'm going to give you as many practical tips as I can to make this very easy for you. So tip number one I have for you is to keep your king and queen on opposite colors. Now, this is not a must, but it's a very good habit, because if they're on opposite colors, let's say like this, they can never get forked by a knight, because the knight only controls one color square at a time. Notice all these are light squares. When the knight moves to a light square, then it only controls dark squares. So as a result of this, if you just place your pieces on opposite colors, you can never get forked. This is especially used for when you're really low on time and have to do this. Now, I'm not saying that you should never keep them on the same color, but there's a much higher chance of risking a fork if you do. For example, queen e3 runs into the instant knight c4, and that's a fork and a draw. So, for example, queen f4 is, however, okay. So you just have to be careful. It's not like necessarily you have to keep them on opposite colors, but when they're on the same colors, you should be a little bit more alert and aware. Tip number two is actually to avoid checks altogether. Now, the easiest way to get forked is to get checked at the same time. So this is a little bit of knowledge about the knight, but the knight has a really tough time getting to certain squares. So I'm going to draw the squares now in relation to the knight. They are these squares. So diagonally with one square gap, the knight has trouble getting to that. And right next to the knight, up, down, left and right. So not diagonally. The diagonal movement is very easily covered with a check. However, if you place the white king on any one of these squares, the knight has a really tough time delivering check. So if you ever want to do this smoothly and consistently, you constantly have to keep track of the enemy knight and get your king on one of those squares. If you want, you can pause the video and take a screenshot of this little drawing thing. So whenever you have to get your king closer, try and use these squares if possible. If not, again, you have to be more alert of the possible forks. And the last tip I have for you is that we use the queen not to deliver a check, but usually to just come as close as possible and cut off the enemy pieces. That's the idea here, very critical. Now, for example, queen f4 would be a good move, queen f6 would be a good move, queen f5, but for example, queen g2, just a random check doesn't do anything, they just move. So many players that I've seen try to win this endgame easily, end up giving a lot of checks, which doesn't really do anything. So try to avoid giving checks and use your queen to cut off the enemy pieces instead. And we also need to talk about the general idea of this endgame. So how do you make progress? How do you win? So basically you just get your king and queen as close as possible and watch them run out of moves. So they will have to go further back and back and back until they reach the corner or the edge of the board, something like that. That's when you can actually deliver checkmate or win the knight. So just make progress steadily and slowly towards these pieces, and they will run out of moves eventually. So we're going to see this with a few examples, but I also want to mention something for the defending side. If you are the defending side, you want to keep your king and knight close together. If you don't, let's just say king c3, as soon as you split up the king and knight, there's going to be some sort of fork, for sure. So like here, queen f7, for example, or queen g2. So not queen f5 though, because then they can come back. So got to be a bit careful. But as soon as the king and knight are split up, there's going to be a fork somewhere. So the defensive side is just advised to keep the knight around the king and the king around the knight. That's the best attempt. So that was the most instructive part of the video. Now what follows is me applying those tips in real time. So if you want to continue watching, for the next 6 or so minutes I'm going to go through this position and one more to see how this is applied to win every game consistently, easily and smoothly. So let's now see how this position is actually won. So I'm going to play out this position and then we're going to see a few more. So let's say king c3 here. Now I'm going to make some decent attempts at defense for black. So they just have to stick around the center as long as possible. So let's say, I don't know, king f4, king e4 over here. Then I'm going to try maybe like, let's see. So maybe I'll deliver a check to force them further back. And let's say they go back king d5. Now I'm going to do... So many players would again give the check, but I have to be a bit careful. Because they just go back and that's it. So queen e3, let's say, then the king has to either go back, at which point we just come closer, or the knight dances around. This is a better attempt at defense, and again I'm just gonna you know, deliver a check only when the king goes back. The king has to go back. So king d6, let's say I'm gonna do queen f5 here. I'm just slowly making progress. So the worst thing you could do here is like rush. So let's say here, now my king is a little bit offside. Let's get the king to d4. That's a little bit makes me nervous because I can get checked. But I see that after the check, I get to the one of the squares that we mentioned. So diagonal with one square gap, or one of these. This requires some practice, of course, but sooner or later you will find this very logical and intuitive. So here, let's see, king e5 is my way forward, but I can get checked, and then I come here, I get checked again, but then I come here, and that's one of the squares. So let's do that. So let's say here, here, and now let's see, he's already down to like, you know, the last ranks over here. So if he goes back with the king, I can go forward again. So I'm assuming knight c8 is a bit better. If I deliver the check, he just covers. So I'm gonna do, let's see, king here, he goes back. So maybe I'll deliver a check to force him back. And let's say king c7. Is there a direct victory? Maybe. Maybe queen c7, king d8, let's say. Now there is a couple checks if I go here, so let's calculate that. So king c6, knight e7, king here, knight c8, and then I get to the square. Okay, nice. Here. And now it should be able just like a forced win. I don't see a way out of this. Queen d7 next move. If they go here, I guess that's an attempt at defense, but simply like, I don't know, queen b7. Again, cutting off the enemy pieces, sort of forcing them to move. And then whenever, basically this is pre-movable. So knight c8, knight whatever. Against all the knight moves, I can just pre-move queen d7. Against the king move, I just go queen d7. So here, or against any knight move, queen d7. So that is how you win. So once again, I got my king as close as possible, but being careful about the knight checks. And use my queen sometimes to give a check, but only when that achieves the objective of getting the king back. That's the only time I gave check. Other times I just got my queen close, as close as possible. So that is how this endgame is winning. Yeah. So we're gonna take a look at another position. I'm just gonna go to add a new chapter, and we're gonna, I don't know, do something like random. Let's connect these two. Okay, decent. And we're gonna do the same thing. So one more time, we have like, okay, if I get the king close, he goes here. I get close, he comes here, and then I get to the square that I want to. Here. This is also like a little bit of a pattern, as you can see. Let's say king d4, that's still close enough to the knight. Then maybe just slowly getting ranks. I'm trying to push him back. Has to go here. Then let's see, king c3. Then I can deliver. He can give me check from two different directions. But against both, I feel like I just come down to the same square at b3. So after king c3, knight d5, king b3. Then I get to the square I want to. And after king c3, knight a2, I'm not going to go to b3. Because again, he could deliver a bunch of checks. I'm just going to go b2 instead. So against this, I expect knight d5 here, and we made progress. Now he's on the 5th rank instead of the 3rd. So he goes here, let's say. Now I want to kind of cut him off from this, so let me try queen e4. Then if he pins himself, then I just win the knight, so I'm guessing maybe a knight move, I don't know. And we get the king close, knight move again. Okay, we have to get the king back again. Then king c5. Notice this is one of the squares that I talked about. So next to the knight, or diagonal one square gap. So let's say knight e7 would run into a fork. So I'm going to try a bit smarter here. This one, and let's say again, get the king back. Now if they go here, that's a fork. So king c8 only move. And this is another safe square for my king. Next move, it seems like I'm checkmating. Unless they give up the knight, and then I just take it then. Okay. But that is the end. So these are some tips applied to see how to win this endgame. So I hope that was instructive. I hope everything made sense. So practice this against the computer. Practice this a bunch in time pressure, and you should see great results soon. So I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe on the video if you want to see more stuff like this, and I'll talk to you very soon. take it easy. Small bonus for those who stuck to the end. I'm going to show you how to practice this against the computer. So what you do is you go to LionChess here and you go into board editor and you just get the board, you know, get the pieces to whatever you like, whatever squares you like, and just go into continue from here down there. Play with the computer and it automatically sets that position. You can do some time control if you want. If you want to really practice this in time trouble, you could go 1 minute or something, or you know, more, and then you pick the strength. I recommend the best strength of the computer, and you click on white over here, and that should give you the easy way of practicing this, and then you just do it as fast as possible. So let's try it against the computer, make it a bit more realistic. Let's go. So I gotta get the king close. Okay, just gotta navigate those ranks quickly since I'm under a bit of time pressure. Okay, if he gives this check, then the knight is split up from the king, so we like that. And now we can just drop the knight here. Oh, that's a blunder. And now we just checkmate. Can I do it within a minute? Queen checkmate. Watch the video if you can do it. Let's see. Boom, boom, and boom. Good enough.